Now, I imagine that what I'm going to say might be controversial, right? But it's something that I feel is needed to say, and that is suicide and the thoughts of suicide are completely natural. This might sound, again, completely irrational. We try to treat suicide and death like the plague, like it shouldn't exist, and we try to scare everyone away from it, which ultimately I feel might scare them towards it more. Now, I think first off, I want to start off by saying anyone who's watching this, who's contemplating it, I completely understand, and there have been 2 points in my life where I have rationalized doing it to such a tangible degree. Never acted upon it, though. But I understand that the darkness that you are potentially in is as tangible as the ground you're standing on. And I understand it's a feeling, and it's a feeling that is seemingly inescapable. It's a winter without a summer, right? And going through that winter, and the longer you go, the harder it gets. And if there's not going to be a summer to the winter, you make the summer with the act of suicide. You perceive the game as one not worth playing if all you are losing. All you are doing is losing. So let's turn it off, right? I understand. With that being said, to those of you who, again, this video is, I want to address both audiences, those who are affected by it, who've had people that went through it, and those who have seriously thought of it or maybe thinking of it, right? To start off with, I'm going to go back to my original statement that it's a completely natural thing, and what I just described was basically the psychological rationalization of someone who's thinking of it, right? This is addressing both parties, and especially the party that may have never thought about it themselves. Understand that the pain, the absolute hopelessness, the lack of feeling that someone can be going through is so not worth playing the game. And that's as simple as I can put it. It is as real as touching cold, sticking your hand in ice, right? Touching fire. It feels inescapable. And for a second, just think about that, right? Those who've never thought about it. Maybe, I guess I can say, think of a day that which you've had a real bad sickness, right? Maybe some of you've never had an extreme sickness that has put you out of work or being able to cognitively think or to function. But just think of that state of what it's like to have maybe just a bad cold, right? And that's a very minor example. But a bad cold or a devastating stomach virus, right? That chronic pain you're in. Well, a lot of us brush those things off because we understand that there are a temporal sickness. But imagine if that was eternal. Imagine if that pain you were going to feel never escaped you. Imagine if it compounded day after day. It gets worse and worse and worse. And you have the option to turn it off. That's what suicide is. Okay? It's a valid thought process. Now, there's a couple ways you're going to get there. From my personal experience, and I've had these experiences twice. One is in existential pain and thinking that there's really no point in meaning to the universe, feeling void of life, feeling void of purpose. I've thought about it during that time, right? Waking up with that void and that gloom, that nothing means anything and everything's just Everything's meaningless, and it's a hard thing to describe. That is a feeling that you have to go through. That was the first time I thought about it, because that took months. It took like 6 months to really get out of, and then it reoccurs every now and then. It reoccurred for a couple years. I really don't get that feeling too many times. I've had it a couple times this year, but I found ways, of course, to rationalize getting out of that dark mindset. Right now, recently I've had contemplations of suicide because of extreme physiological pain, and even though I'm not in them right now, last summer I had some of the most devastating bout of, and I still haven't got it fully figured out. I've had tests at the doctor done recently, and nothing's pinpointed it yet. But I've had the most intense bout of gastrointestinal disturbance, inflammation, pain that I can describe. It's hard that I've ever had, and it's hard to describe because it lasted. To put in perspective, I had such, first off, just a sense of pain acutely in the abdomen, right? Any food that I ate went down with pain, no matter what it was, okay? So eating food became hard, right? I lost probably about 12 pounds during this period and started to look emaciated, right? So with that being said, you're chronically weak and you're in pain when you eat. It goes further than that, right? I started feeling like my blood became battery acid. You feel toxic, and it may have actually been some state of sepsis, but you are in a chronic sense of pain that you can't escape. Physiologically, this isn't a psychological sense of gloom and void. You are in an extreme bit of pain. Full body pain. Accompanying that pain is a sense of fatigue. You have very, very little physical motivation to do anything. Your psychological state starts to deteriorate. You lose your cognition and all the things which you enjoyed, right? You start to lose sleep. I was having bad night sweats and all, and this abdominal pain, full body pain. So you go 3 months into this, you're half starving, you're in a big state of caloric deficit, you're in chronic pain, you're losing sleep that's been compounding for months. And if there's no end to this, and there's no summer to the winter or night to the day, you really, really start to think about ending that, to give yourself a new beginning. So I've been through both. I understand what it's like to feel void of love, of life, of meaning, and I know what it's like to feel in such a degree of physiological pain that you lose your vitality, you lose your health, you lose your cognition, you lose so many things that we take for granted on a day-to-day basis, right? So it's a completely healthy rationalization to want to turn off what is seemingly eternal. My argument is to rebel against it with everything you have, right? I'm not going to make this video about different ideas and philosophies in which to fight those, although I might go over them briefly. That's going to be in a separate video. Check that one out if you are in desperate need of finding that raft in the darkness, in that sea of pain, right? And hopefully one day you'll float to an island. I can ultimately just say hold on, right? And if you have family that, one, if you're the observer of the suicide, understand what they went through, okay? And I understand if you commit such an act, right? Second, to the people who are going through those thought processes, right? And there's some people who've probably been through much worse than I have. But hold on. As cliche as it sounds, there's going to be I can't say there's going to. I'm not even going to commit that sin of saying that there's a certainty of a brighter tomorrow. Even if it's a 1% chance, and that's the way I felt. Hold on to that 1%. Okay? Usually, if you can make it out of that darkness the happiness in which you take with you through the rest of your life is immeasurable. The little things that you're going to see people get bothered by, brush off your shoulder like nothing, right? Little temporal physiological pains and illnesses you get, you learn that you can become a fucking giant. And by that I mean you feel invulnerable. You might get sick temporarily, but you have such a strong psychological grounding, and you know how to kickstart the system back in such a positive manner that those are nothing to you. You become a titan, right, amongst a day-to-day society if you go make it through the other side of these things. Ultimately, there has to be, I would like to think there's something to hold on to, right? But again, if you're watching this and you're in that feeling of wanting, if you're in that feeling of chronic pain, I get it. Okay? I hold no negative judgment against you if you turn the switch off. And to everyone else who's observing it, just empathize with what's going on. So to everyone watching, I appreciate you watching, and I hope you've benefited from this, right? And with that, check out my video that I haven't even made yet. I'm going to make it on how to deal with depression. I'm just going to call it a generalized how to deal with depression video. It's going to address probably physiological illness and psychological illness, right? So, again, guys, thank you. I hope you enjoyed.